Everyone, it's John Heath here again from Milton Rose Learning with another Let's Learn video on Death of a Salesman, key quotes. Okay, so definitely want to kind of dive in here. So we've got three of the best themes and we've picked three of the best quotes for each of those themes. So let's dive in and we'll kind of start analysing. So the first theme in this play has to be the American dream. Okay, so basically the idea or the concept that if you work hard, you can become rich, basically, as long as you play by the rules. That's the element of the American dream. So let's look at three quotes for that theme. So the first one is from Willy. He's liked, but not well liked. So Willy believes that success in the American dream is based on charm and being liked, not hard work or talent, we should say. That's nowhere really in that quote. So he has a flawed conception of the American dream, it being based only on charm alone. And as we know, charm alone is not going to make you wealthy and rich in the American dream. So his whole worldview is based on a misconception, which ultimately leads to his tragic downfall. Okay. And next quote, we have Willy returns. So he says, "I am not a dime a dozen. I am Willy Loman, and you are Biff Loman." So Willy here refuses to accept that he's ordinary within the American kind of capitalist society. His obsession is being with somebody, being this kind of wealthy kind of individual. And it reveals how the American dream has ultimately distorted his own sense of self-worth. He thinks he's the big man, and he's not. A dime a dozen means you're just ordinary. So when he says, "I'm not a dime a dozen," I'm kind of, I'm not ordinary. And dime is obviously a US currency. So it places his whole conception of himself in terms of money, effectively. So I think that's quite interesting there as well, how capitalism has almost warped his whole way of perceiving of himself. Very interesting there. And last one to Willy again. "The man who makes an appearance in the business world is the man who gets ahead." Let's think about what he's kind of getting at there with the American dream. It shows Willy's, again, shallow understanding of success, appearance over substance, okay, leading to his downfall. What we might say in today's world, fake it till you make it. It's that kind of misconception. It doesn't matter what you do in business, it matters how you look in business. And again, you can probably get quite far doing that these days, but not forever, and eventually people will call you out on it and stuff. And I think Willy almost again doesn't understand that. You can see there's misconception piled upon misconception here with this character. Okay, right, the next theme we'll look at is family and paternalism, or like fatherliness, if I can put it that way. So we've got three really good quotes for this, and we've got Biff first. So let's have a look. So Biff says, there's a time in the play when Biff says a really interesting quote. He had the wrong dreams, all wrong. Okay, use of really telling use of repetition there. So Biff's tragic realization is that Willy chased false ideals that we've just learned about and passed them on. That was the ultimate tragedy. It wasn't just him believing in these, he passed them on into his family and into his son. So the father-son relationship is built on a misunderstanding and ultimately pressure for success under the American dream. Very, very tragic, because he's forcing other people then to follow his misguided precepts. Then we have Biff again. "I never got anywhere because you blew me so full of hot air that I could never stand taking orders from anybody." Quite interesting there. So Biff exposes how Willy's inflated hopes for him ruined his chances of finding real purpose, because he was too busy bigging him up, going, "Yeah, you don't need to follow what anybody else says," that it made him almost unemployable and kind of meant it filled him with arrogant pride that ultimately damaged all of his social relationships. Really, really tragic there, and a lesson to us all, everybody with children, effectively. You need to teach your children to be kind of humble and kind of follow the rules sometimes and actually kind of be humble and don't think you're too big for your boots, because ultimately it only leads to hubris and a lack of kind of self-completion. And then Willy. So Biff is a lazy bum. There's one thing about Biff, he's not lazy. So these conflicting lines show that Willy's unstable view of his son, effectively. He's torn between love, disappointment and projection of his own kind of elements, because obviously that line or those lines don't make any sense. They logically are incoherent. So it shows Willy's kind of ambivalence and Willy's kind of conflicted views about his son, which is again ultimately quite tragic throughout the play. Then we have illusion versus reality quotes, because nothing is ever fully as it seems in this play. So illusion versus reality quotes. Let's have a little look at that. So if this one comes up in your exam, some good quotes here. I'm the New England man. I'm vital in New England, says Willy. So he again, it's almost laughable. He's clinging to a fantasy of success and importance, hence the word vital, meaning absolutely crucial. Even when his career is falling apart, he kind of has this inflated sense of self, and it inflates itself almost to a kind of tragicomic proportion, really. And the audience would, because this is a play, as we know, so the audience would react with a mixture of humour but also tragedy there. It's kind of really tragicomic. Then Willy again. You wait, kid. Before it's all over, we're going to get a little place out in the country. So Willy dreams of a better, simpler life and an escape from the failure that he's kind of had to be subjected to. But again, it's just a dream. It exists only in words and rhetoric. And it's a dream that never materialises. He never gets that place out in the country, and that's it. It's kind of like, an absolute kind of a death knell, really, for his dreams. Really quite sad. And the little place out in the country symbolises, in my mind, his desire to escape. His kind of, his existence, which is, ultimately failed. The kind of tragicomic element of it as well. And then, last but not least, we have Willy again. And he said a really interesting quote here, metaphorically. Nothing's planted. I don't have a thing in the ground. So he uses an agricultural metaphor here to capture his own despair. He has nothing lasting to show for his life, no legacy. Ultimately, everything that he tried, everything that he planted, metaphorically, has come to nothing. Can you imagine the tragedy there if you realise that basically your whole life has been a failure? And I think that metaphor really kind of, can be analysed very well and pulls his whole failure to root almost. So hopefully you've enjoyed that. We just had a very quick whiz through 3 of the key themes and then 3 of the best quotes for each of those themes. If you've enjoyed today's session, obviously don't forget to hit the like, subscribe and tap the bell icon to never miss another Let's Learn video again. That would really help us grow. If you've enjoyed any of the content, please do pop down any comments and stuff and we'll do our best to reply. And please do share the content with all your friends. Okay then, so it just remains to say, obviously, thanks for listening and take care. We'll see you soon.